Picture your day without a single screen. No phone, no TV, no music, no books, no headlines, no notifications. The lights are out. The room is silent. What would you do? For most people, the honest answer is be bored out of your mind. Modern humans have been trained to believe that without our endless feed of entertainment, life is empty. That before electricity and the internet, our ancestors must have suffered through long, miserable days waiting for something to happen. But that's almost the opposite of the truth. Decades of anthropological research suggest ancient humans probably had more fun than you do. They worked less. They played more. They built lives so rich in pleasure that the modern entertainment industry has been quietly trying to recreate them ever since. Let's start with the biggest myth of all, the myth that ancient life was nothing but survival. In 1966, an anthropologist named Marshall Solins gave a lecture that quietly broke 100 years of assumptions. He called it the original affluent society. After studying hunter-gatherer groups like the Juhwanzi in the Kalahari and the Hadza in Tanzania, he found something modern people refuse to believe. The average adult worked roughly 3 to 5 hours a day. That was it. A modern American works 8 or 9 hours, commutes another hour, and spends 2 more on chores. That's 11 hours just to live a normal life. Hunter-gatherers spent maybe 4, which means they had 7 more hours of free time every single day for their entire lives. So what did they do with all of it? Well, for one thing, they invented every game you've ever played. In 1922, the British archaeologist Sir Leonard Woolley was digging through the royal tombs of Ur in modern-day Iraq. Alongside the gold and the bones, he found a small wooden board inlaid with shell and lapis lazuli, 20 squares, carved pieces, pyramid-shaped dice. This was the royal game of Ur, 4,600 years old. People in ancient Mesopotamia had been sitting across from each other, rolling dice and trash-talking, long before the pyramids of Giza were built. And it wasn't unique. The Egyptians played senet, the Greeks played pateia, the Romans had tabula, ancient India invented chess. Every single one of these cultures, independently, came to the same conclusion. The best way to spend free time was to sit across from another human being and try to outsmart them with stones and dice. And they didn't just play, they gambled, heavily, to win each other's money, to settle disputes, to decide who took the last piece of meat. Ancient humans didn't just have games, they had vice, which brings us to the next thing. Because if you think the games were a surprise, wait until you hear what they were drinking. In 2018, archaeologists led by Li Lu at Stanford analyzed 13,000-year-old stone mortars from a cave in Israel. The residue contained beer. The people living there, a group called the Natufians, were brewing alcohol before agriculture, before pottery, before settled cities. Some archaeologists now argue humans may have invented farming not to grow grain for bread, but to grow grain for beer. Read that again. The most important transformation in human history, the agricultural revolution, may have been driven by our desire to get drunk together. And it wasn't just alcohol. Cannabis residue in 2,500-year-old Chinese burials. Opium in Sumer 4,000 years ago. Peyote in the Americas going back almost 6,000. Across every continent, in every era, ancient humans were getting high. Together, with ritual and music and meaning wrapped around it. Not to escape, to feel something with each other. But the strangest thing, the thing that puts every modern entertainment industry to shame, isn't the games or the drugs. It's the art. In 1994, a French explorer named Jean-Marie Chauvet was hiking through the Ardèche Gorge in southern France. He noticed a thin draft of air coming out of a cliff face. He squeezed through, and on the other side, he found a sealed cave that no human had entered in 28,000 years. The walls were covered in paintings, horses, lions, bison, rhinoceroses, drawn with such precision that when Pablo Picasso saw similar prehistoric art, he reportedly said, "We have learned nothing in 12,000 years. The paintings in Chauvet Cave are 36,000 years old. Now think about what it took to make them. The cave is pitch black inside. The painters had to bring fire just to see. They had to mix pigment from ochre and charcoal. They had to build scaffolding. They had to plan. They had to study real animals long enough to render them with perfect proportion. And then they had to spend hours, possibly days, in the cold and the dark, painting animals that almost nobody outside the cave would ever see. For what? Not for food? Not for shelter? The only honest answer is the one most archaeologists now give. They did it for the same reason you might pick up a guitar or doodle in a notebook or stay up late editing a video. They did it because making something beautiful was one of the most human things they could do. And it wasn't just paintings, it was music. In 2008, archaeologists in southern Germany found a flute carved from the wing bone of a vulture, 42,000 years old, 5 finger holes. It still plays. 42,000 years ago, someone sat down with a piece of bone and a stone tool and spent hours carving holes into it just to make music, then played it for their family, and they listened, and maybe they danced, and they did it again the next night. That's what fun looked like for tens of thousands of years. Now zoom out. Ancient humans worked about 4 hours a day. They had 70 hours of free time a week. They filled that time with games, gambling, alcohol, drugs, music, art, dance, storytelling, sport, ritual, and conversation. Almost all of it communal, almost none of it alone. They didn't watch entertainment. They were the entertainment for each other. And here's the part that hits the hardest, if you let it. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General declared loneliness a public health epidemic. Average daily screen time in developed countries is now over 7 hours. The average American has, by some surveys, only one close friend they could call in a crisis. Many have 0. We have more entertainment than any humans who have ever lived. We can watch every movie, hear every song, talk to anyone on Earth instantly. And we are, by every measurable standard, lonelier and more anxious and more depressed than the humans who painted horses on cave walls by torchlight. The people we picture as primitive spent their evenings around a fire, telling stories, getting a little drunk, playing a game with bones and sticks, watching someone they loved play a flute carved from an animal they had hunted that morning. We spend our evenings alone in a room, watching strangers do things on a glass rectangle, while a billion other people watch the same thing in their own rooms. Alone. They didn't have fun the way we have fun. They had something else. Something we don't really have a word for anymore. Something we sold off piece by piece in exchange for convenience and content. If you could go back 30,000 years and explain to a human painting horses by firelight that one day his descendants would have access to every movie, every song, every game ever made, and would still describe themselves as bored and lonely and tired, he'd think you were describing a curse, and maybe, just maybe, he'd be right.